Let's keep our eyes on the markets right now. We've only got about 10 minutes or so to go into the closing bells with some acceleration to the downside, specifically on the Dow, down 565 points or so. Let's bring in right now Diana Avigdor. She's the head of trading at Barometer Capital Management for more color in terms of what's going on. Diana, what are you seeing? What are you witnessing?
I was just looking at my app to see whether we're going to have a little bit of strength into the close. I'm disappointed to say that we're not, but not surprised. It's a very quiet day, really. Stock markets on both sides of the border should probably have been closed today. Really, really light volumes. What that means is that it exacerbates the path of least resistance. So when we're being in the market that is a little of heightened anxiety with what's happening in the tech space with Apple and the chain, it's dragging NASDAQ down into an already worried technology sentiment. So last time we spoke, I spoke about having to respect the technicals because this is what's happening here. The macroeconomic narrative is still positive. The earnings narrative is positive, but something's broken from a technical perspective, and we're trying to dig out. We have a little bit since we last spoke, up about 1%. We're holding here at these levels. It's tenuous, and we have to watch to see whether these levels get broken or not.
Diana, specifically, which levels are you looking at, and specifically which indice?
So I'm looking at the S&P and the NASDAQ, which have been the first ones to sort of break down. I know we spoke about the TSX, and last time we spoke about the TSX was that really if you were hiding in North America, specifically US and Canada, you fared a lot better than Europe and Asia, which were down in the over 10%. So, but from a technical perspective, I think that looking at the NASDAQ levels, because they have been such leaders globally, they were the last ones to break down. So we have to see what kind of leadership reemerges if it does. In terms of Canada, we're watching some of the earnings that have come up. There's the cannabis space. There's the banks, there's the energy that's in question. So we at Barometer have been less weighted Canada than the US. So from my perspective, that kind of mattered to us to see whether the existing markets, the ones that have been stronger all year, whether they're holding in.
So Diana, I think the tough part, though, for so many investors right now is, a lot of people don't want to wait and see and lose money because the wait and see will lead them to not be able to perhaps take some profits right now, right? What are you looking at, though, aside from the technicals on the fundamental front? I mean, one of the reasons or a lot of the reasons why the market is down, there is concern in terms of the demand from Apple's end consumer. And obviously we saw that in the pressure in one of their suppliers today. That stock's down 32%. That's a major move. That's really concerning. You've also got rhetorics heating up as it relates to the Democrats and President Trump in terms of any types of investigations they might do. Also ratcheting up as it relates to U.S.-China trade tensions. So the fundamentals are concerning, are they not?
There is always a narrative that we can talk about on both sides. You're right in the stuff that you're saying, but earnings have come in very good. Economic data, if you look at all the macro data, unemployment, anything that you look at, we're going to have retail sales this week and CPI, so it's going to be important to see. The macroeconomic data and the economic surprise index has been positive. You have an unemployment rate that is so low. You have companies growing revenues, which is fantastic. We've been waiting for that for years. So in terms of the economic data, yes, the political environment with the current existing president is nothing short of interesting, shall I say, but it always has been this way and always has been full of headlines ever since the original 2 years ago election. So the fact that we've had this midterm election and the ensuing result, from my perspective, actually ensures, or not ensures, but at least maybe promises some kind of compliance or some kind of agreement or some kind of deal making, which frankly gives legitimacy to the whole process, a lot more than just one-sided. So from the perspective of if you can have a nonpartisan type of agreement going forward, that could actually be positive, and that comes into a backdrop of economic conditions that are positive with unemployment rate so low, and now you're starting to have wage increases, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I think that investors just seem to be taking no prisoners today. And as I say that, we're watching the Dow down 616 points. Volumes, though, to your point, are fine. You're not seeing major volumes. In fact, they're under the 20-day moving average. And what I'm also hearing as well from traders is that the activity is relatively civil. So, it doesn't necessarily feel that way or look that way when you see the markets down so strongly. But it just seems as though there's just no risk appetite out there. Investors want to get out of those growth stocks. They are concerned about rising rates. They're concerned about a rising U.S. dollar. And they're concerned about China-U.S. trade.
That's true. But I said also that the direction, when it's so thin from just today's perspective, it will exacerbate the direction. So the news on one of the Apple suppliers and Apple and the whole tech tape is dragging everything down a lot. Look, it's not easy, and we will never pick bottoms or pick tops. We've had a bull market for many years, and we've given some back, and we've given it back in a fashion that's very scary. We went from new highs to a straight line into support. I'm not sure that anyone would have been able to get out fast enough with knowledge. With luck, yes. With knowledge, no. You wouldn't have known that all of a sudden from new highs, this was going to happen. You get lucky, you're fine. Now, at this point, at these levels, we're right at support. Technicals are to be respected. We have a seasonality, both in terms of midterms elections and fourth quarter. From a seasonal perspective, it's supposed to be a strong quarter. That's not to say that it can't fail. Anything can happen. But this is not the level. If you've suffered the sell-off to here, wait and see if we hold these levels, and then have some stop losses below.
All right, we've got to leave it there, Diana. Good to catch up. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the head of trading at Barometer Capital Management, Diana Avigdor.